Nuance with Nikki, the nitty gritty, even if it's shitty. Now, before we start this video, I'd like everybody to know that I am having a cup of coffee. And I'd like to invite anybody who wants to do the impossible to jump through my screen and just follow my instructions. Okay, what you're looking at there is a cup of coffee. It's got coffee in it, it's got water, it's got milk, etc. So now, anybody who wants to take, let's see if you can do this. I want you, challenge you to grab a pair of tweezers, right? And I'd like you to try and separate the coffee from the milk from the water, okay? Just like this. Okay, now, once you are done doing the impossible, right? I'd like you to understand that you cannot remove the white from me, you can't remove the black from me, and you cannot remove the fact that I am both and neither. Okay? But the point I'm trying to make is that when it comes to disrespecting any kind of mixed race person, people have more respect for beverages such as coffee than they do for human beings, right? Don't worry, I sterilized my tweezers before I did that. And people will go, I don't understand, blah, 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 blah. And they'll go to Mug and Bean, and they'll go to flippin' Starbucks, and those kinds of things. And they'll understand, hey, here's an espresso. Hey, here's a coffee. Hey, here's a cappuccino. Hey, here's a chai latte. They will understand the degree to which what ingredient comes from where, but they also understand they can't take that out of whatever. Okay, but that's besides the point. I think I'm going to make that in a different point. But I would just like to read you this comment, which won't show up on my YouTube's because I do have a thing on that censors those, but I did take a screenshot of it and paste it here. Y'all abuse each other. We know how colored people roll. You're suffering in Cape Town while your Asian and European overlords disenfranchise you, yet you go after low-hanging fruit. This was under one of those videos where I said, look, the fact that we've had apartheid is now being used against black South Africans, right? If you follow my page for any length of time, it's being used against black South Africans who are trying to keep their children alive from people who are poisoning them at the moment. And a lot of the rhetoric around the African diaspora is something like, well, apartheid did it. And a lot of the points that I have made here on my channel go, you know what? Just because one person bulldozed my firstborn doesn't mean I want another person with a bicycle, albeit they don't have the colonial machine behind them, to come and bulldoze my secondborn. That's not exactly how those dots connect. Okay? Most people, I think, have this fairy tale idea in their mind. Well, apartheid is over. We now get to go to South Africa and take over. And it's like, you know what? A lot of those original white people actually came here put too. Who but black South Africans should be on the alert for the fact that a small seed was once planted and it grew into a massive forest. And the dots that people connect right now is that now that there's a sapling, they should ignore it. Makes absolutely no sense to me. So I've been speaking about that. And I think with the best of the intentions, this young woman who calls herself Afri Princess, I think she was just being defensive, right? But I do want to respond to her. I'd like to say, first of all, let the record show that you referred to Europeans as overlords and to Africans as low-hanging fruit. I do challenge you to find any such rhetoric on my channel. Okay? So first of all, you said that. But let me just analyze more of what she said there. She said, y'all abuse each other. Okay, so I imagine that she's making the point that colored people have the monopoly on abuse. I got a little mathematical equation for you to just assess because, look, she's not the issue. It's this kind of rhetoric that I'm speaking back to. This doesn't actually, at this stage, surprise colored people. It doesn't. Okay? But the stereotype is something that someone has to speak back to, and so I'll talk about it, right? And so then she said, we know how colored people roll. So I'd just like to ask her, who is we? Who is we? Because here's what I know. I know that when the African diaspora, particularly the African Americans, came for Tyler around the colored issue, it was black people even more passionate than colored people, that came out in their numbers more than anybody else. The whole Rainbow Nation stood, but the black people more than anybody else tiredly defended the colored identity. So that's the we that I know. Okay, and a lot of what drives me is after seeing people stand up for us like that, when it's uncomfortable, I'll be damned if I'm silent. I cannot just turn around when just 2 years ago black people showed me such solidarity just for a bit of an insult. And now, while their livelihoods, their families, their children are in danger, I must be silent. So I am actually prepared for criticism. To be honest, I was expecting more. And what I find interesting, what I've pointed out in my videos before, it's quite ironic to me when a black person is saying the exact same things I'm saying. I've mentioned that they get paragraph after paragraph after paragraph after paragraph of disrespect. I will get 2 lines, something like this, right? Or I'll get an apologetic paragraph or something like that, right? That I actually found surprising. I was expecting more vitriol and hate. But if it means that because of that person's own internalized racism, whatever's going on for them mentally, they're actually listening to me for once, I'm glad. Because as I've mentioned before, there are so many black people out there saying it. They've been saying it, and they're often saying it more articulately than me. But if your own issues mean that you listen to me more in the message lands, so be it, so long as the kids are alive. Okay? So anyway, yeah, but I do want to address this issue, right? So we know how colored people roll. You're suffering in Cape Town, she says to a girl who couldn't tell Muizenberg from Boerkaap. Right? So once again, this buys into the stereotype that all colored people come from Cape Town. And this is not an indictment on the people who do come from Cape Town. But what I do want to point out, what I do want to challenge is, no, you don't. What you know is what has been spoon-fed to you by the very people you call overlords. And the irony is that when you buy into these stereotypes, you are honoring dead white people that were so evil, people who hated black people so much. I mean, there are people who've hated black people, right? But the people that cause division between black and colored, or black and mixed race, black and Creole around the world, these are people that hated black people so much they didn't stop at their own children, and they're dead. And anytime a colored person or a black person or whatever buys into this, then you are keeping their legacy alive on the one piece of real estate they cannot steal from you, Boki. You know, sexual assault has taught me that people can take your body. Robbery has taught me that people can take your stuff. Colonialism should have taught us all, you know, even just watching District 6 and Sophia Town and all those kinds of things, teach you that people can take your land. The one precious bit of real estate that they can't take away from you is this thing between your ears. And every time a colored or a black person, wherever they are in the world, buys into this bullshit, we are keeping it alive. And guys, I have addressed the colored people that are like this. Okay, and I will address it. This is something of an unplanned video. But my intuition right now tells me to read you my poem again. It was supposed to be for a series called Colored and Black Relations in South Africa, and I wanted to wait for that. I'm actually not entirely sure I'm going to publish this one. We'll see. But I'm going to follow my heart. Sometimes these follow my heart videos are very good too. 2 cousins, both alike in dignity, in fair Mzansi, where we lay our scene. 2 brothers, both survivors of the same system, talk of blood and skin, forget that they are kin. 1 family, forced into a fight they didn't ask for, a fight they didn't begin. For if these 2 brothers call each other, they forget that this game was never designed for either to win. Might as well stop the video there. But no, I'm going to address it. And I'm going to ask my audience to give me grace. It's actually, I'm finding a lot easier to stand up for someone else's race than it is for your own, particularly when yours is small. So I do need your support, okay? So this we know how you colored people roll thing. What you know is what has been told to you by far more powerful machinery. Okay, please just can we critically assess how the story is being told by the BBC? And we know, of course, how much the BBC loves portraying South Africa positively, right? Actually, they did. They portrayed South Africa very positively back when they were in charge of us. Go and watch some of those black and white movies. But let's just listen to this.
The following report contains some disturbing images.
And immediately after disturbing images, she shows a 3-year-old or 2-year-old little baby. And then disturbing images 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Every time, ladies and gentle peeps, that you have seen a colored person down the road and immediately thought gangster, you've been played. You've been played because you've watched media after media after media saying disturbing images. It opens subconsciously on, what is that? Is that even a 2-year-old? A 2-year-old, and there we go. It's a mother lovingly looking at her. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody there probably grade R's. That is what you claim to know. Right? Now, I trusted my audience who knows colored people, all of those hundreds, maybe thousands of black people that stood up for us, and people of all other races that stood up for us. I trust that this is what they know. Now, I just want to say that the way, I don't know this person, of course, I think she was just being defensive, but the way that she's communicated this is very similar to how I used to look at men. You know, there are so many good men in this world, but I was so frustrated by the bad men. Right? That when there were good men right in front of me being good, I had this cognitive override of them. And it took a lot of personal experiences. And then one day I noticed that about myself. And the moment I noticed it, I was able to open myself up to this rich world of kind, loving, good men. So I'm just using my relationship with men as an example of how we can all do this. And I'm trying to point out that I'm no better than her. Okay? I'm no better than her. But, I wanted to say, you clearly know nothing of colored people, what has been spoon-fed for you. The colored person who would never have 2 shirts if his brother had 1. Or the colored neighborhood, no matter how poor, in which no child is left to go hungry. A community which adopted the unwanted babies of all races, many of whom are still alive, and gave them a home. Sometimes colored history will be right in front of you, but it can be written in such a very strange way. So did you know, for example, the longest people to carry passes in this country were colored people? It says the first pass laws were introduced in 1760 in the Cape Colony to control the movement between of slaves between rural and urban areas. If you're not South African and you're not clear on this, the descendants of the enslaved in South Africa are the colored people. Okay? That's just one example. And I'm not even going to touch yet on colored history that hasn't been taught. I'm going to touch on colored history that has been taught in such a way that you even ignore it. Like, for example, have you ever considered who the longest serving domestic workers in this country are? Think about it. Who did I just say were the enslaved? We're talking about 300 years of domestic work there. Do you know what I mean? And yes, I can already hear the voice there in some people's head going, you're the one engaging in Operation Olympics. Actually, it wasn't me. I'm responding to someone who's engaging in Operation Olympics. And then when I point out the alternative perspective, then once again, the demonization is reflected on me. Okay? Again, not that it's bothering me. I just want to point it out. When people do this to more vulnerable colored people, people do this to young colored kids. Okay? Or young mixed race kids. All right? I need to speak out about that. You know, I was once in the middle of a lesson teaching, and there was wording around colored and Indian enslaved people being brought to this nation, right? And the way it was worded was something to the effect of, and the bringing of slaves further impoverished the black community. And I'm like, who wrote this? I mean, what shall we say? Oh, darlings, you're so naughty to inconveniently get yourself enslaved so that you can disrespect others. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those, this either or kind of wording. It seems to imagine it's going to gain something from dehumanizing the other. Do you see what I mean? Okay. And girl, whoever you are out there, dude, I heard your whataboutism before you even thought it. If you're wondering whether or not I've called out colored people on this topic.
There is nothing in this world more stupid than a racist colored person. I won't be taking any questions.
And nope, I do not stand alone in this. I have already shown articles of other colored people who've written articles talking out against coloreds who are racist towards black people. So yep, I acknowledge it exists.
Who are Xhosa as well. And many of us as colored people are sick and tired of the bogus history that claims otherwise.
Dispelling the bogus history, just who were the first people. I have become very tired, sick and tired, in fact, by the succession of false histories concerning who the first people of the Cape were, and also the misrepresentation of the Xhosa as foreign alien blacks who invaded the Cape, and indeed blanket claims that the colored people are the Kurna or Khoi, and therefore we are the first people who demand control of this land.
Yep, so there are colored people who talk out about it. Definitely. Early on in my channel, and it's only got 30 likes at this point, I have addressed the question of whether or not colored people are racist.
The history of South Africa. We have been a racially divided country. We don't shy away from that.
Push from the truck, and on the very same spot, another confrontation is beginning. 3 boys died here, but more are...
These narratives are never told, as I pointed out there. During the 1976 Soweto uprisings, it was the colored community of Bonteheuwel in that same Cape Town that girl disrespected that was the first to stand up for the black kids in Soweto. And these kids were shot at. And I do encourage people to have a look at that too. Okay, there they are, getting shot at. Okay?
For racism and tribalism, we've seen that does not work.
Here are the most feared students by the apartheid government. Anton Franch over there, all by himself, took on the apartheid government with nothing but an AK-47 and a handgun. He was surrounded by 40 police.
Special forces in the Bontas. He fought for our liberation, for our freedom. At the age of 20 years old, his life was taken away.
Okay, guys, that was the story of Anton Franch, and you saw some images of the other students.
Those are colored people too. A lot of people think these narratives, these pro-black narratives or anti-apartheid narratives or whatever, are new. This goes back, guys. One of the most understudied phenomenons in South Africa was the Free Blacks. The Free Blacks were actually colored people, or our ancestors. Now remember, I count somebody as colored even if they weren't mixed race. If all of us are descended from them, I count them as colored, right? And these were Indian people, Asian people, whatever, and they had the option of integrating into white society, and they basically said Futsak. Okay, so there's nothing new about that. I'm going to put a link in the description to that video. Just give me another thing that I want to show you. Before we carry on to me mocking a colored person whose video went around being stupid and racist and all of that, I want to show you an example of black people standing up for South African colored people.
South African, just black, or just mixed race is such a deep oversimplification and erasure of the culture, history, language, and heritage that they have built for themselves as colored people out of so many different struggle scenarios, such as South African slavery and apartheid within South Africa.
Did you hear that? She said that.
And I went out of my way to show some pretty girls there. Because we got beautiful girls in this country, yo. Umuhle, baby. And so I think the point that I'm making here is not about whether or not colored people's hands are all clean. The point was that most have only seen negative image of colored South Africans. And I compared our Mampara. We had a Mampara whose video went all the way to America. I compared them to other Mampara. Remember earlier, I count people as colored if they are our ancestors, right? Because they have a shared heritage.
Okay, so what we're looking at here, on the top left there,
okay, whether they're Indian, whether they're Madagascan, however they got there, okay? There, black kids come in South Africa to be our ancestors because in South Africa they preferred children. Okay, there's Madagascan people. I believe that you're seeing Indian people there. And over here is a sign of how they lost their names. Colored people, it's why they're called October, November, etc., 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 etc. The Cape Coloreds. I say they because I'm not entirely confident that I'm descendant of the Cape Coloreds. And I'm not entirely confident that I'm not. I know about the last 4 generations of my family. There's our Indian ancestors coming along. Okay. So I have shown this. And here's a video of mine mocking a colored lady for her racism.
People. I don't like black people.
So colored people are not perfect, and that's not the point we're making. Colored people have mamparas around them. So an example of an American mampara would be someone like Candace Owens.
What I'm gonna say is really, I don't really understand how far we're gonna take this inclusivity thing. I really don't get it. Look, I assume.
When you say that you believe yourself to be Caucasian, tell me why you believe that to be true.
Well, I know I'm a Caucasian because when I wake up in the morning, I just have such a great life. And that my hair is so perfect, my skin isn't ugly, and I'm not fat also, which is also a really African-American thing. I'm a Caucasian.
I'm sorry that I'll keep my mouth shut.
Conditioning in South Africa? Like, do y'all even know how to, like, wash your own hair? Because y'all probably don't. Because I know how y'all dye y'all hair blonde. Y'all get that cow to piss on your head, so it's condition.
We all have mamparas, but the difference is when it comes to colored people, people are very quick to see only the negative because we don't have the same kind of machinery. So I'm going to take out something that's objective. It's not colored. It's a calculator. Calculator. Where is it? Calculator, okay? And let's do some maths. Maths is objective. It doesn't care about my feelings or yours. And it doesn't lie. Numbers don't lie. Okay, Google. How many colored people are there in South Africa? So we're dealing with 5,340,000 people. Okay, 5,340,000. Can I round it off to 5 million? Okay. Okay, you know what? Let's make it 5,500,000, just that I can be cruel to colored people and generous to everybody else. Now, the point of this thought exercise, right, is simply to highlight the fact that the negative stereotypes of the colored person are just so obscene that even mathematically, they're completely unfair. But I think before I point this out, before I get all cheeky and judged about it, I want you to know that every time you do this, you are not just scoring an own goal, okay, because you've really submitted your mind to ancient narratives, which I've spoken out about. Okay, ancient 400 years, you don't exaggerate, right? I've spoken out about them in my Mixed Messages series, which I do recommend people go and watch. But also that as a monoracial person, whatever your race, you have a magical power I don't have. You have the capacity to have a mixed race child, a mixed race grandchild, a mixed race niece or nephew. You have that possibility. I'm only ever going to have a mixed race child, boys and girls. I'm only ever going to have a mixed race child. Chris Rock, please tell them what I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
See, it don't make no sense to hate nobody. It don't make no sense being racist or sexist or nothing. But whoever, it don't. no sense. For whoever you hate will end up in your family. That's right. You don't like gays, you're going to have a gay son. You don't like Puerto Ricans, your daughter's going to come home and live in la vida loca.
And so, your daughter or granddaughter one day is going to be living la vida leca. Let's go back to our calculations bookie. So I am using the AI Pi. Okay, I love just talking to Pi a lot. Don't worry, this is what I was using. Don't read the screen. Shh, it's none of your business. You can go check my channel for what's on over here. So let's ask Pi, right, if colored people fit all the stereotypes, right? So let's just pretend every single colored person in the world fit every single stereotype of colored. So we're all gangsters, even when we're 2 years old, 3 years old, even in our nappies, we're gangsters. And we're all pregnant teenagers. Okay, even our grandmothers, even our boys, they're all pregnant. Every single one of us was everything bad that's ever been said about us. Right? Every one of us. Let's just play with that idea. It's a thought exercise, right? Thinking isn't illegal yet. Okay? So 5,500,000 people, right? Okay, so I asked Pi, 5,500,000 people. Remember, that's more than the current population of South Africans. But if they were all pregnant, how many children would they have if they each had 3 children? Now remember, in this thought exercise, even the boys are pregnant. Okay, let's ask Pi. I'm going to use his male voice now.
Wow, that's quite the thought experiment. Let's do the math. 500,000 people, x3 children per person, 500,000 children. That's a lot of little ones. Of course, this is just a theoretical scenario, but it's interesting to imagine how the world might look with that many more people.
Okay, so 16,500,000, huh? 16,500,000 people. Okay, sorry, I had to listen properly moment there. So we've got 1.2 billion black people in the world. We've got 850 million white people in the world, okay? In the world. So remember, only about 5 million colored people. So we would have 16 million if all of us were pregnant, boys included. Now remember, I said that I was going to be generous to all other races. Okay, since we are using calculators and AI which don't have feelings, but remember the point of my exercise is we're talking about a world which so obscenely exaggerates the narratives of the bad that colored people have done, and I'm trying to get you to deconstruct that objectively. Okay, so there are 850 million white people in the world, so 850 with 6 zeros, 1 2 3 1 2 3, right? Let's say only 10% of white people ever had pregnant teens, because monoracial people are right now morally superior in our thought exercise to colored people. Look at that. It would still be 85 million people with pregnant teens. Okay? Just pregnant teens. I won't even multiply it by 3. I won't. Okay? How many black people there are in the world? 1.2 billion black people. I believe billion is with, and I hope I'm not wrong, 9 zeros. So if it's 1.2, we need 8 zeros. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 divided by 10. Right? If only 10 million, 10% of black people ever had pregnant teens, right? I'm just using pregnant teens as an example, okay? So we've got 120 million over there, okay? I think we said 85 million with white people. Now apply that to any stereotype about colored people. Apply that to any stereotype, guys. Be that the gangsters, be that whatever. What the point I'm trying to make is, even if colored people were if every single one of us, even defying physics, even our menopausal grandmothers can get pregnant, the men can get pregnant, we're all gangsters, even if we're in arthritis. our narrative is being told by such massive race groups, and the bad that we do is so obscenely exaggerated that even when the fringes of other societies do the exact same thing, just the fringes, just 10%, I was very generous, it so outnumbers the entire colored population, right? The entire colored population. And you know what? I wanted to be generous, but I'm also going to try and drive this point home a little bit more. Okay, no, I'm not. I accidentally closed the calculator. But I was just going to say, if I was going to take that 10% and divide it by however many colored people we said, it would still be greater. Okay, I hope you hear the heart of what I'm saying, right? I made a long video talking about all the different kinds of media which is ever spoken on behalf of mixed race people around the world. In this movie, they believe that mixed race people can't breed, right? In this movie, the person was upset because she was about to marry this rich man, but he had mixed race kids, so, oh my gosh, she runs away and she cries. Look at her. Oh, you poor darling, you poor darling. Okay? And this is all in the pre-Netflix world. We see a lot more positivity around mixed race people right now, right? We've got Dragon the Bruce Lee story and how, they're talking here about yellow babies. It's all the self-pitying stuff, or it's all this demonizing stuff around mixed race people.
Children whose crime was being born, they're called we know, the dust of life, conceived in hell, and born in strife, we owe them for...
Yep, conceived in hell and born in strife. It's always either pitying, or it's condescending, or it's something negative, And none of these people happen to be, at least not classified as colored themselves. And I showed all the different psychological games that people of different races play, even in film, even the subtle messages that are sent to mixed race people, right? Oh man, my alarms are like, Nikki, stop it, Nikki, stop it. And then I compared it to how mixed race people see themselves, which is always incredibly empowering, right? And so this is one of my favorites. I am mixed race, but not a martyr. We always tend to portray ourselves in a self-empowering way. But guys, what I want to drive home is the caliber of people that you are propping up when you're propping up this anti-colored or anti-mixed race or anti-Creole generation. I really want you to understand the level of racist that you are praising every time you do this. And I've made it clear multiple times in my channel. If I haven't, let me make it clear again. The colored person who rejects the black person is a person who's not only rejecting a part of himself, he's rejecting his own family. There is no way he can do that without wounding himself. Okay? I have discovered this from both sides. Both sides. I don't reject the white part of me. I don't reject the black part of me. I don't reject the good, bad, and ugly parts that may or may not exist in my history. And that is why I am such a healed person. It's one of the reasons. And obviously, there's a lot of other shit, right? I'm a woman too. My cat needs to come inside. Garfield, you coming inside? During my series, Mixed Messages, I spoke about people so obsessed with race. These are the people who are playing you. You see, the governor of Australia here, or he's one of the people in charge in Australia, Mr. A.O. Neville, he's in the same WhatsApp group. There are people who've been governor of Australia and also governor of the Transvaal, okay? This is from before the Transvaal, before there was a concept such as South Africa, because there were 4 colonies. Let me not overwhelm you. So what I'm trying to say is the same kind of people who made policies here in South Africa that pushed you down. Remember I said this game was never made for any of us to win. They were so obsessed with mixed race people. The governor of the Transvaal was once called Governor Lawley. He was governor of Transvaal and Australia. That is why there is a town named Lawley, just south of Innerdale and Eldorado Park in Lenasia here in Gauteng. They were so obsessed with mixed raceness and blackness and the subjugation of people that their word for a colored person, if he was half black, half white, was mulatto. If he was a quarter, he was quadroon. If he was an eighth, he was octoroon. Guys, they went as far as hexadecaroon. Who in God's name has time for that kind of racism? Who? This is who you are praising. Any of you colored people who would reject black people, who has that guy? Guys, look at this video and tell me this is what you want to busy yourself with.
Here is the answer. 3 generations. Half-blood grandmother, quadroon daughter, octoroon grandson. Now, as you can see in the 3rd generation,
Half-blood, so mulatto grandmother, quadroon daughter, 3rd generation, right? And they went as far as hexadecaroon. Hexadecaroon was the word they used for someone who would be 1/8 black. Guys,
Wat 'n hekselse dekselse dinges die. Hexadecaroon. How can you be so obsessed? Guys, I went on in this video to make the point that this was even not in the time when they didn't have Zoom meetings about this, guys. These MNFers got into a boat and rowed all the way to other people's countries to go and bother an octopus just to get ink out of the octopus. They go to a farm, they bother an ostrich to take the feather the fuck out of the ostrich, to go and to other people to go and check the lightness or darkness of your skin in order to come to your house and tell you, hello? Excuse me? You, sir? You who are minding your own business. You are a hexadecaroon. And if you guys want to carry on with this foolishness, I can't help you. I can't. But I do recommend you go and watch my messages videos. Okay? Go and watch video number 3 because... Hi, Yenna. Now, guys, have a lekker day and let us all get along. Bye.